All right, so more spring cleaning continues. Every time I drop a video or stream about fighters retiring, another fighter joins that roster. And now Antonina Shevchenko, she joins up as well. She's calling it quits, y'all. Antonina Shevchenko was hanging up the gloves finally. I think a lot of us probably felt like she already done that a while ago, but she just officially announced that on her IG that she's hanging up the gloves from the sport of MMA. She's done. She's moving on to focus on her aviation career, which in my opinion, I think that's a good idea now because the last few fights in her career really weren't good representations of her as a fighter, because she's got a good background. She's came from Muay Thai, boxing. It just always seemed like a student of the game early in her career. But as she started doing other things, she got married, moved on, to flying and, just doing that as a recreation, but then wanting to do that as a career and then having a baby and, becoming a mother, it just kind of took her head completely out of the game, and like I always say, you got to have both feet in the cage. Like her sister, you got to have both feet in the cage if you want to be, at least a top 5 fighter or the champion at some point or an all-time great, right? You got to make that full-on sacrifice. And that's why I already seen the difference between these two. It's crazy. Like Antonina always side by side with her sister, and they always train hard together. But you could always see just like a difference there. Antonina's mind on other things, but Valentina, you could see her putting everything into it to get to the top, right? And at this point of Antonina Shevchenko's career, probably like even like 2, 3 years ago, you could already see that she wasn't ever going to break top 15. She wasn't ever going to crack top 15 or even get to top 5. Definitely not at that point, right? Because you could just see it in her performances and the result. You weren't seeing that evolution, like I always be talking about. You really weren't seeing that dog in her, or even that killer instinct like you seen in the Bullet, right? So thought it was a good idea, for her to finally announce it. Like I said, I think she already left 3 years ago. She was done. Because she had said that she wished she could have left her gloves in the cage, but I think she was already probably like, I'm done. You know, she just was holding on, maybe to see if she wanted to do a farewell fight. But I guess she was like, nah, I'm done. But yeah, this is what she said on her IG. She wrote a little long paragraph here. She said, look, dear friends, I didn't have the opportunity to leave my gloves in the cage or in the octagon by tradition. I didn't think my fight in UFC 2022 would be my last. I'm leaving my gloves. She said 30 years ago, she got a black belt in third degree black belt in Taekwondo, 11 world champions in Muay Thai, kickboxing, and MMA, more than 400 fights in amateurs and professionals, UFC fighter, Asian and South American champion. This is how I finished my career in a professional sport. Of course, martial arts continues to be the big part of my life, but in a different way. It's time to focus on the next page, my career as a pilot. She said, my heart and head are completely in or filled with airplanes and the sky. It's hard to express how happy I am that aviation is coming to my life. And she just goes on, to thank everybody, her mom and everybody like that. So she says, now it's my turn to do all the hard work for my son to raise him a decent person. Of course, I'll do everything possible for him to become a professional fighter and a pilot. Oh, okay. All right. So she said, hey, she might raise her a little fighter or a pilot. That's all right. So yeah, I think, that's a good idea. Shout out to Antonita for finally just being real and said, hey, my head is in this world. That's it. Because I think that's what a lot of fighters make mistakes. They think that this is all they have. They think this is all they have. So they continue to just go in there, half train, make weight, and then become a punching bag, never evolve. Or they continue to think that this time it'll be different. This time it'll be different. I got it. I got it. They keep thinking that way, but they really aren't mentally in it. And that's why I would say when you see Valentina and Antonina, you see like polar opposites. They're both descriptions of the type of fighters I described. Like the one fighter that makes all the sacrifices, that's the one that's going to become pound for pound champion, right? Or at least get the top 5. And then Antonina, somebody who's focused on a lot of other things, good things, but they're not focused on the hurt sport. They could go in there and get hurt, because their mind is on some other things, right? So you got to make that choice. Like if you want to do this, if you want to be a mom or, full-time pilot and juggle all these other things, then it's got to be that, right? Because if you're not fully in the fight game or you're not fully in the pilot seat, something's going to suffer. And I'd rather her retire from fighting than become half pilot, you know, because in that world, you got to be 100% in it. You got people's lives in your hands, you know. So I'd rather her leave the fight game and become a full-time pilot if that's what she wants to do. You know, you can't show up, punch drunk behind the seat of a plane with thousands or hundreds of people in those seats, trying to get to their destination, and you punch drunk and you flying over the ocean, right? So yeah, I'd rather her leave the fight game because you got a career that needs your 100% focus, 110% focus. All right. So yeah, she's doing right by that. So yeah, Antonina Shevchenko, just looking back at her resume, let's see, they have her at 10-4. She started all the way back in 2005, y'all. So it was like 20 years in the game. 20 years in the game. She made her debut with WXF World Championships 2005. And from there, she went on a nice win streak, didn't lose until she got into the UFC about 14 years later. She lost her first fight to Roxanne Modafferi, and then she beat Lucy Pudilova, which was an action-packed fight. She choked Lucy Pudilova out in that one. That was crazy back in 2019. And from there, she was pretty consistent. She lost to Caitlin Chikagan back in 2020. Then she came back, stopped Ariane Lipsky. But every time she would kind of step her game up against some of these hungry fighters, she would lose like Andrea Lee. Then she lost back-to-back Andrea Lee and Casey O'Neill. She got finished in the second round by both of them, and from there, that's where, it kind of went downhill. Like, she really want to be here, what she want to do. Took almost a year off, came back, lost to Casey O'Neill. Courtney Casey. She beat Courtney Casey. Sorry, she beat Courtney Casey by a split decision. So at least she did leave with a win. She did leave with a win, because I was thinking that her last fight was Casey O'Neill, but after losing to both Casey O'Neill and Andrea Lee, she did come back, win a split decision over Courtney Casey. So at least she did leave like that with a W. So yeah, with that being said, I think that it was a good idea that she decided to call it a day. 40 years old, mom, pilot, amongst other things, probably, of course, she's a wife too. So just a lot on her plate, too much on her plate to try to worry about the fight game. Like I said, the fight game, it requires some of your best. It requires your full heart. It requires your mental, requires your body, all of your body, right? It requires every bit of you. That's why, like I said, you see the difference between her and Valentina. Valentina's giving it her all, whereas Antonina's not so much in the game anymore. So, or hasn't been for a while. So yeah, she's making the right choice. But yeah, pretty much, like I said, officially, she could say she had retired 3 years ago. But yeah, this is pretty much it. I guess no more juggling or no more thinking about it. So yeah, good on her. She could always just be a trainer, and keep her, keep that spot in her camp with her sister, as far as, training with her, just being that moral support for her. And I think that should be about it for her. So yeah, shout out to Antonina Shevchenko. Yeah, I think, she always had like a good boxing style, as far as, just pure boxing. She always had that element about her. I like, even back in the day, that's where she came from. She was solid on the feet. But like I always say, as the game changes, you got to evolve. And that's one thing we didn't see from her. We didn't see that from her like you did her sister, like throughout these fights. Like when I first saw her fight Roxanne, I remember I think I was out of town, man. I was like in a hotel, we were partying and stuff, and I was still trying to watch these fights. And it was an early card, so I got up early after partying to watch this fight. And I was like, all right, let's see what Antonina Shevchenko gonna do. And then she winds up losing. I'm like, what? I was like, how's she go in there and get beat by Roxanne? I always remember that fight. It was a trip, man. But that was where it kind of went down from there. Even whenever she fought Caitlin Chikagan, Caitlin Chikagan had just come off getting beaten by the Bullet, I believe, right? And they give her Antonina next. So Antonina was like, I can't beat nobody like the Bullet, so I'm gonna take it out on her sister, right? So, it was just kind of weird like that. You would always see like the opposite happening here, So, yeah, I'm definitely glad that she's hanging it up now. Wise decision here, but this is what it is sometimes. If you can't keep up with the game, let somebody else have it. Let somebody else have that spot What do y'all think in the comment section, y'all? Make sure you hit the like button. Combo Breaker 99. I'm out. Peace.